First we take the Transjakarta busway number 1 from the Bundaran HI bus stop. Then we get off at the Kali Besar bus stop, and after that we cross to the museum. The distance from the Kali Besar bus stop to the museum is only 600 meters.
Patriotism is love of one's country and the spirit of fighting for the nation. In the Fatihlah Museum, there is underground prison that was used by the Dutch colonialists to detain freedom fighters. One of the figures who was detained was Prince Diponegoro, who was captured after the Java War 1825 and 1830. The condition is in the underground prison were so inadequate and dark, damp, and lacking ventilation that many prisoners died from physical torture and disease. These fighters were willing to sacrifice for Indonesian freedom. Even though they had to face torture, patriotism, their undying zeal for the nation's freedom. Modern relevance, the spirit of patriotism, teach youth that love of our country is not only about fighting, but also how we contribute to the country, such as maintaining unity, preserving culture, and rejecting corruption. During the colonial period, Indonesia's society experienced sharp social discrimination. The Dutch colonialists implemented a caste system which divided society into three groups. Europe have privilege such as access to educate and health. Foreign is Chinese, Arabic, placed in a middle position, often used as an economic intermediary. Natives positioned at the bottom, often work as unskilled laborers and experience exploitation. The underground prison at the Fatahillah Museum is a symbol of this injustice. Indigenous prisoners were treated worse than those with the connection of the colonialists. This reflects inequalities and the detrimental effect of social differentiation that are still relevant today. Specific example, indigenous prisoners were given poor food and placed in small overcrowded cells, and while elite prisoners receive better treatment. This reflects how social differentiation creates injustice that have long-term impact. The history, the underground prison at the Fatahillah Museum is a silent witness to the cruelty of the colonialists. Many freedom fighters were imprisoned and brutally tortured, even to the point of death. The Dutch colonialists used this method to suppress the spirit of people resistance. This correctly can be categorized as a violation of human rights. It's serious or even genocide because it's aimed to destroy resistance group. Example event is the Java War 1825 and 1830 was an example of how the Dutch arrested and impersonate important figures such as Diponegoro. In this prison, they faced physical and mental torture. This even reminds us that independence was obtained at heavy price.
This museum also holds many works of art that reflect the colonial period. The building's architecture is an example of Dutch colonial art, with a typical 17th century European design. There's thick walls, large windows, and high roofs. Every corner of this museum contains high artistic value. Apart from that, there is a collection of art such as paintings and dioramas that depict the struggles of the Indonesian people. So, fine art becomes a tool of symbolic resistance. Through works of art, people express their cultural identity and fight oppression. These works are not only aesthetic but also full of historical meaning and struggle. So the concept of Amar Ma'ruf Nahi Munkar in Islam means inviting goodness and preventing evil. The struggle against colonialism is a real from this value. Many Islamic scholars and figures were arrested in this prison for opposing injustice. For example, there is Kiai Haji Ahmad Dahlan and Kiai Haji Hashim Ash'ari fought for education and people's rights, despite facing pressure from the colonialists. So the moral message is fighting colonialism is a form of Amar Ma'ruf Nahi Munkar because it aims to free the people from oppression. This reminds us to always defend the truth and reject injustice in everyday life. So colonization was not only about physical thinking but also economic exploitation. The Dutch implement a forced cultivation system which forced people to plant export crops such as coffee, sugarcane, and indigo. The crops are harvested cheaply and sold expensively on international markets. This policy caused famine in various regions, especially in Central Java. So many of the prisoners in this prison are farmers and small people who opposed the forced cultivation system. They were considered to have resisted the colonial government and were arrested without a fair legal process. This reminds us that the economic struggle is also part of the struggle for independence.